All right, so since everybody is going to CanJam this weekend, everybody is going. Right? Everybody. Everyone I know is
going to be
there.
They're going to be there. Yeah. Everyone you could imagine.
In New York City.
Tomorrow.
Times Square. Tomorrow. Saturday, Sunday. Yep. CanJam. Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to, that we were thinking about is because we've gone to trade shows forever in audio, and like you guys just did the car show recently locally, right?
Yes, I've closed doors at car shows.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah. There's a video on that, isn't there?
There is. We'll put
closing the door.
Maybe.
Yeah, closing the door to tell the quality.
To evaluate the vehicle.
Yeah, you get the resonant character of the whole body of the car.
That's right. And if you want to level it up, roll down the window. It's way harder to pass.
Well, we'll get into this later. We better stick to what we're But you go. Let's say you go to one of these shows, right? And you go in with some sort of preconceived notions, whatever they might be. Mm-hmm. And I'll bet any money that there's no exception that when you are done with the show, that there are things that you like or dislike, right? That you didn't think you liked or disliked before you got there.
Yeah,
it's inevitable.
It's a complete mind changer sometimes when you go to a show. It could be anything.
Yeah.
If you actually have an open mind, that is.
Well, that's true.
Plenty of people go to shows and it just reaffirms what they already knew because that's sort of what they were looking for.
Which is fine.
Yeah, it's functional.
I guess
it's
that's
not really
what you
the
like.
better bet.
Yeah, like if you're a BMW fan, you're going to drive BMWs, right?
You do see that at car shows, yeah.
You're just looking for the latest and greatest. You don't care.
Yeah.
You're not even looking at other things. You're not going to go to the Chevys, the Fords, Chryslers, the Jeeps.
Well, it depends on what you're looking for, sure. But
and not even a Mercedes.
Like
but doing that, you won't be surprised. Oh, I would never even consider this, right?
Yeah, true.
But that's...
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice. Go look at the Kia.
Yeah.
Slam the door on that.
Yeah.
They got Mitsubishi still.
That's true.
Still sell them.
Well, there's like one.
That's kind of the beauty of an audio show, because you might be in a certain price category or whatever. You're never going to spend more than, how people are like, I'm never going to spend more than X dollars on something until you try it. And you're like, oh, now all of a sudden, now I see why people like this,
Well, it goes both ways.
Right.
Yeah. Some people also say it's definitely not worth it to me.
True.
So it's a valuable experience either way, right?
Yeah.
Or it could work the other way because you could try something you wouldn't even consider that's cheap that you would think, and you're like, oh, actually this fits my need, right?
Right. Actually, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
You go there expecting to spend a ton of money,
right?
And you're like, I'm good with this.
That's right.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens.
That would be cool.
I've had that happen before.
It can happen.
But anyways, the topic of today's discussion is supposed to be, what are the reasons you could walk away from the show and think you like a thing, but end up not being satisfied with it long term? How could your opinions and feelings change over time?
Yeah, it could go either way, actually. You could like or dislike at a show, and then,
it shifts over time.
Yeah. I think
see that a lot.
The biggest problem with a show is brevity. It's brief.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of time to play with any one thing, right?
Well, and you probably feel rushed, people behind you waiting.
Yeah. So, it's an emotional roller coaster at a show.
Well, that's very much it. And it's sort of like anything. You spend a little bit of time with something. It could be doing the thing you wanted to do, and so it gets you a little bit emotionally. And you really think, wow, this is just the greatest ever. It's the best thing I've ever heard. And because of that state you're in at the time, it makes it harder for you to then hear something much better than that. And you kind of always look back at that brief memory fondly. And maybe you end up buying the thing and you spend a lot more time with it at home. And oftentimes it doesn't live up to your expectations. Unfortunately, that's common. It works the same way with everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Cars, clothes, whatever, right? Any of the things where you have to live with a little bit longer than the initial impressions period, it's common, unfortunately, for some people.
You could either fall in love with it or hate it. Could go either way.
Well, plus you're no longer at a show when you're at home, right? It's in your system. You could relax a little, so it's a whole different experience.
There's definitely advantages for a long-term audition, absolutely. Particularly if you're going to try to mesh it in with an existing system.
Well, that's the thing. You're using it with your gear, so that might work. It might not work.
Which is another downfall of the show. You're forced to use the gear that, unless you bring your own portable. We've had a couple of people.
Bring your headphones.
We have a couple of people who have like a dolly with like 30 pounds of gear on it.
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen backpacks which is filled with stuff.
Yeah, right.
Oh, so, I got the adapter for that.
You could kind of get away with that sometimes. Like if you're in some gear, as long as it's light, a lot of times the people at the booth are willing to let you do. questionable things. You hook up your own stuff and do all kinds of crazy adapters.
Well, for most people, you're limited to what's at the booth or what's in the room, and that can be a problem because if let's say, I mean, in both ways. Let's say, you got a headphone that's on $30,000 worth of gear that you're never going to buy.
Right.
And it sounds unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go home and say, oh, my God, that headphone's unbelievable. Now you buy the headphone. You get it, plug it in your system.
Right.
There's no unbelievable
and it's
anymore.
underwhelming.
Disappointed, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the system you were hearing, right? I mean, and by all means, the headphone has to convey it, but, it may convey it to a higher level than you would think possible.
Right.
And the opposite's true.
That's
The
right.
same's true when you dumb down the system.
Well, I think every show, it's probably 2, maybe 3 people ask. It's like, oh, can I try this on my phone? It's like, well, you could try it.
Yeah, right.
It'll work.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, yeah,
They're
I
always
could barely
like,
hear
yeah,
it.
it's not that great.
Which brings us to another factor is because the volume level at a show,
Right.
unless you go in one of their quiet rooms, which is
And
there's
even
half a dozen of
one,
them. Yeah.
Even then, they can be pretty loud.
Right. You got people talking all the time. It's tough. And but the volume level's up there. It's it's probably 85 dB. It's relatively loud compared to home, which is most homes are probably around 55, 60 dB at night.
Or
Nobody
less.
yelling or screaming,
Yeah,
as
hopefully
long as
not.
you don't live in a big city. But that's a big difference. You're talking a 25 dB spread on noise. That's 25 dB you ain't hearing.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Right. There could be a
So
lot going on
it's
there.
drowning out all the subtleties in listening.
And moreover, it could be that if you travel, especially, you're fatigued, or maybe you're in an unfamiliar experience. You didn't sleep as well as you normally do, or you had different shampoo that morning, and now you feel slightly different. Like all these things.
Oh yeah, the shampoos.
They're literally factors, though. They really are. If you feel different, you're probably
yeah.
going to have a minor difference in your perceived experience.
People
And
probably don't remember we did a video on that, right? Where
we did.
we
yeah.
talked about the varying types of shampoos or things you put in your hair could change the
Well,
sound.
people joke about it, but it's a real thing, and
Yeah.
it's not significant. And maybe some people there are not going to notice it, but when you're looking at high-end audio, especially, oftentimes the difference between some gear is very minor. It's tiny little nuance, so it's hard for you to be certain without a lot of experience what's causing this nuance.
you wake up with like hotel bed hair.
Yeah.
It's all sticking up.
As you know, we
Nothing fits.
pretty much run into this at every show because you get there and you're tired from traveling or whatever. You set everything up and you're like, it works, and you're like, I'm not even going to listen to this because you just don't even care at that point. After traveling and everything.
Yeah.
So
Which is
it's
an
like,
issue.
We'll listen to it tomorrow.
You're not in a mental state
Yeah.
to really appreciate what's going on, and then you combine that with you're not eating normally.
Right.
Nothing's normal.
Sure.
You're
It's late, you
outside.
traveled all
you're
day.
total.
Yeah.
You totally just rocked the boat in terms of your life because you're not home.
But this is one of those sort of worst case scenarios, because there's no doubt that going to a show like this and actually taking the time to experience the things, there's a lot of value there. And the issue is, unfortunately, it means you tend to have a lot of things going on that maybe you're not used to, maybe you're unfamiliar with. It's hard for you to really kind of work out what's happening, or maybe the changes from your normal. And you have a different baseline than normal for that period. So to be certain that the changes you're hearing are only because of the product or the gear or whatever, it is difficult. You might not have your same music. You might have various states and things like that going on that cause you to feel a little different.
You might be hungry or thirsty.
But what do you do about that, right?
Well, that
What are
one you
the-
can solve.
Yeah.
what are your alternative options? I think really the only thing you could do in this case to mitigate these issues is over time build experience by going to more shows and getting familiar with a more nominal state that you're going to be in.
Well,
Just
that's
kinda
true.
get
That's
more
one way to do it. I
acclimatized.
mean, if something that you experience is repeatable, through multiple days or
Usually it
sessions, then usually you're kind of at that point you're honing in on the reality of it. That's the way it's probably always going to be type thing to the most part. And I mean that is the nice thing about shows is, to me, a show is more about narrowing down
Yeah.
your choices. I mean, some people make their choices there, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it could go either way, but that's fine. I mean, a lot of people go there and they just, it reinforces what they already thought. They've read the reviews, they've read people's
Right.
opinions,
Depends on the person.
and they're ready for it, and they're just there to finalize, and they're just there, and they're like, okay, this is doing what I thought it would do, and we're good. They like the buttons on the amp, they like the look of it, they like the feel of it. Whatever you're looking at, doesn't have to be headphones. It could be anything there. The electronics, the tubes, the glow of the tubes, the weight of it, the size of it, the ability for it to do raw power and volume. There's a lot of things you could gain out of a show. You know,
Well, there is another potential problem though, and that's like just fatigue in general from listening to, because at the end of the show and you already heard everything. By that point, you've heard so much that it's just like you're
burned out.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
It's a real
you're
thing.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, some people say take notes, which
Yeah.
you know, if you've never done this before, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're actually serious about it.
It's hard to do, though.
Because then you have a record of what you thought, because you could get lost.
Yeah, but you still got to understand what you're talking about when you're writing down these notes.
True.
And so if you're not experienced, I think initially it's a bit much, but it's not a terrible idea. Still, though, when you go back, you read through your notes, it kind of helps you to relive the experience, but you don't necessarily always take account of all the factors that made you to believe, to feel or think this way.
Yeah, you want to keep it brief.
Since you don't have the product anymore, you can't try the experience again. It's hard for you to go back and re-verify later on.
I could see taking notes, like you want to keep it brief, so you could draw little arrows, like as you get more into the show, like say you're in day 2, and you get here and you go, oh, this isn't what I thought was it over here. Now I've changed my mind.
Well, that could be a mess.
You know,
There was a guy in Chicago last year, and he was taking notes, and he had 4 or 5 bullet points for every headphone.
Yeah.
And then he was listening to 1266, and all he wrote down was "wow," and
Yeah.
that was it. He's like, I didn't write anything else.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Cool.
I'm like,
Yeah. See, that sums it up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Brief notes.
it was a little brief.
To some extent, there is value in that, though. If you try to work your way up in what you believe to be your perception of performance at a show, I think that could work to your benefit. Because if you start from the top and work down, there could be trouble there, because now you're always going to second guess. Well, did I like this because I heard it first and now I'm fatigued, or these factors? Whereas if you kind of work your way up, it's kind of like I think it's easier for you to really grasp the differences. The lower end stuff could help normalize your baseline. You work up from there. Or maybe
that's where you are,
maybe
yeah.
you wrap back around, right? And you do everything twice if you have the time for that. Really depends on you as a person, though.
That would require 2 days for sure.
It's a lot of time, though. That's the trouble.
Plan would probably be the best thing you do. The things you think you're probably gonna like, start with that.
Yeah.
And go there first early in the day, probably when it's like quieter,
This video was supposed to be about the
starting.
days after, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
so
talking.
we're-
We're talking. Yeah.
We're way off.
The
on this
morning
one.
after. Yeah.
Yeah, what happens after you go to the show?
Well, you got to start with that part. Of
Well,
it,
first
actually.
first is recoup.
Yeah, right.
Get back home. Get back to normal. Give it a day or two. Mull it over. Then maybe go back over your notes after some time has lapsed. You know what? Another thing besides notes is just taking a photo. Like everyone's got a phone. If you take a photo of the system, like that way you see the electronics and you know what everything's there, because
Right.
notes don't necessarily tell you.
You could write it
You
all
could
down. People
note.
do write
You
it
could
down.
note the headphone or something,
Yeah.
but then you'll forget what it was connected to. And
Right.
it's like, well, the system matters too. So like, if you really want to recreate that, that's the direction you want to look at. But yeah, taking a photo of it, and even like you could text yourself a picture with a note in it.
Sure.
If you think about it,
do whatever you want.
take I mean, something that just that you don't need paper is what we're saying.
I
You
do
don't
see
need-
people write down
you know?
entire systems, like what amp is that, what deck is that. But
Yeah.
that's the harder way to go. You could just take a picture of it.
Yeah, I think a picture would be easier, and just so you have a record, and I mean, don't take if you take a picture of everything, well, you're screwed.
Wow.
Yeah, you're really taking a picture of stuff that you're really interested
A lot
in.
of pictures. The summary is there's a lot of reasons why you might not necessarily like the product like you thought you did once you start living with it. And it's trouble, because what do you do to fix it? Without the experience, without the knowledge and understanding, there's very little you could do, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you look back to see what was it that you liked to begin with, and it could be the electronics or it could be the headphones. Depends what you bought. If you bought an amp and you don't like it, well, now you got to be looking at what headphones you were listening to it on, and some things go together better than others.
I always end up with a stack of business cards at the end, and then like when we get you back home, and then it sparks up. Oh yeah, I forgot I was even looking
Look at the
that.
website?
Yeah, right. I check it out.
Some
later.
people carry a pen and just write on the back of the
Yeah.
card or
Yeah,
write
writing
something.
on the card isn't bad if you got little notes.
You got to have a pretty nice pen, though.
Oh,
Some of these
Some
cards,
business cards got
you
coatings
can't
and
write
stuff.
on.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you need
Yeah,
one of those good
wax
pens.
coatings
You need
and
those
stuff.
ink gel pens.
Mm-hmm.
Gel ink. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
To help recall the show.
Yeah, so I mean, you could see, you could just in general, you could see, I guess you could see the pitfalls, especially if you do it. If you've never done a show before, don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. There's always another show.
It's going to be overwhelming, probably.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
Don't
is
worry
what
about
it
it.
is.
Yeah, don't be super critical about it. Life isn't that short. You can always redo this another way, or try to
You
find
could
another
go
way
to
to
another
audition.
show, most likely. Yeah.
Right. So, don't worry about it. But in the end, these shows are great because you get to talk almost all the time directly with some main people. and and they're knowledgeable, and they know why they did what they did. They know how they made the product. They know all about it, and that may either fit with your goals or not. I mean, the reality of it. Why things are made the way they're made, and so on. It also clears up a lot of misunderstandings people have in products in general. Why is that volume knob so big on that amp, or so little,
Sure.
or why don't you have tone controls, or there's all kinds of questions I could see people having where you're talking right to the manufacturer. They're going to tell you straight up why they made it the way they made it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that either turns you on or it turns you off. It depends on what you're looking for.
Either way, it provides value.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it gets you closer to your goal of figuring out what you want.
Good stuff that you don't get from a website typically.
Yeah.
So it's take that information in, suck it in.
Ask the right questions, and then so you can recall it later.
Yeah.
And then compile it.
Yeah, right, exactly. They're there to help you. Yeah, and if there's something you're wondering, that's the time.
Mm-hmm.
Take that back with you, that knowledge, because you're not going to get it anywhere else. If you called someone on the phone there, you're probably not going to get the same answers. It depends who you get on the phone.
That's right.
But yeah, you might not get the same answer. I don't know. You might get exactly the same answer. It depends who you talk to. Yeah, it depends who you talk to. But yeah, bottom line is that it's a good resource for people to learn more about the hobby in general, even if you're not buying anything that day.
You don't need to be buying something. It's an
amazing resource to come back home with.
Talking with the people is the important thing, and I think if you talk with the people at the show, and you actually describe, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I'm looking for, what I think is interesting about this product and stuff, a lot of times they'll have insight that'll help you to minimize your risk and issues after you purchase a thing, or you go home and you're wondering, what should I purchase, or should I do this or that?
Your criteria will probably change.
It makes it a little easier a lot of times.
Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at things you didn't even know you were supposed to look at, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You got a whole new subset of knowledge to go on, and that helps to narrow it down. So again, even if you're not buying anything, it's great to just walk around and check it out. So and take that knowledge with you and grow with it. So,
you leapfrog off their experience to kind of
good stuff.
Push yourself forward a little faster.
Yeah, I mean, people have decades of experience, and just to get a piece of that is amazing when you think about it. I mean, you're not going to get that anywhere else. So cool stuff. Hopefully you guys, get to see all the goodies, try as much as you can. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I know we sure as hell are going to enjoyed seeing everybody there. It's going to be a great show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thumbs us up. Take care.